Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Ven Vamos podcast. We are with
Nicole de Lara, Puente,
Nicole. Come on,
the Live Like Bella Foundation. What's
there we
up,
go,
guys?
just like that. For sure. So, Nicole, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Alrighty, cool. So, Nicole, tell us, what do you do? What's Live Like Bella like? Take us down.
All right. So I have the blessing and privilege to be the CEO of the Live Like Bella Childhood Cancer Foundation. The foundation started about 6 years ago this May. Was named in honor of a little girl in our community, Bella Rodriguez Torres, and who battled with cancer for about 6 years and passed away at 10 years old. The foundation was started in her honor. She was a child that sort of captured the hearts of the community in South Florida. And she left a legacy, and her family started this in her honor to make sure that children who are battling cancer around the world have access to support, that the best research is taking place for children with cancer. And in the unfortunate event that a child does leave this earth too soon, that the families have the resources to be able to pay tribute to their life and in their memorial, and we can help support them.
So, the organization raises both for research and in-house treatment.
That's correct.
Okay, that's
We call
awesome.
it in-treatment support.
In-treatment
Like when a
support.
child is currently undergoing treatment, we help the families offset some of those costs.
Okay, and what year you said that the organization started?
In 2013.
Okay, cool. And what would you say is how difficult could it be for families going through a kid that has cancer?
I mean, that's such a complicated question in the sense of difficult in so many ways, right? I think,
Right.
Your life stops. I think it's not just an emotional side and on the fear side, but on the financial side too, right? In addition to the worries that you have about making sure that your child does well, also being able to make sure that you say, okay, how do we flip our lives upside down right now and make sure that we can keep on paying the bills, helping our family. A lot of times when a child gets sick, one of the parents has to stop working, if not
It's
both.
the adjustment of it.
It's the adjustment. I mean, from a financial standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, having
Right.
access to the best resources, the best doctors, it's an incredible hardship for
Do you
families.
think that those resources are readily available
No,
to families?
they're definitely not readily available, and I'll tell you why. We are a team of 4 people in
Right.
Miami and countless volunteers, and we're helping families right now in 47 states and in 17 countries. And
So we operate not just in Florida.
correct. We operate all over the world. So when
Internationally,
you
wow.
right, well, when you ask me like, are there resources? If this small foundation in South Florida, right, and I mean small in terms of operation and staff, is helping families in Russia and in Hawaii, the answer to that question is no. There can't be enough resources because if
Right.
there were, we wouldn't have this kind of reach. So
Do you
so no.
think from like a national or state level is cancer research funded well, or
If this podcast was about launching a new drug, and we said, okay, Nadir, let's talk about opening a pharmaceutical company.
okay,
There's no money in childhood cancer research. So you and I might have a very different conversation and say, you know what, let's not do childhood cancer research. Let's do something with diabetes or heart disease or things that are more common. Because most children, about 80% of children, by the time they're diagnosed with cancer, they're stage 4.
so it's already at the worst possible
Well, the thing is this, it's like, I have a dear friend he's a pediatric intensivist, and he's like, Nicole, sometimes being a pediatrician is like being a veterinarian. The patient can't tell you what's going on. Even a 6-year-old doesn't really know how to explain what that leg pain is. It could be
Right.
that he hurt himself playing soccer, right? So diagnosis takes a long time. Children don't get screened for cancer. They're not getting tested for the kinds of things that adults do. So if a patient can't explain what's wrong, you're not screening that patient, it's taking time.
Right.
And the problem is that children have the physiological disadvantage that in all of that time, they're growing, and so are the cancer cells. If you look at a niece or nephew of yours that, from age 2 to age 2.5, you're like, man, they grew 3 inches in 6 months. So did the cancer cells.
right.
So there's no funding, because if you and I are going to say, all right, Nadir, let's start a clinical trial. Let's open up a clinical trial and see if we recruit patients and test these drugs. You and I are not going to say, you know what, let's put a stage 4 9-year-old in that trial, because if that child dies, it affects the outcome of your clinical trial.
Right.
Right? So it's a very difficult thing for people to get on board. And that's why funding on the research side is so important. And that's why we're so committed to it.
And you think that's because of the return on investment that these people have perceived, or
I mean, I don't know. I'm not, I don't have the institutional knowledge, right? And I don't know if it's just about ROI, right? But we're talking about are we investing in the most, childhood cancer is rare, right?
Right, to
Thank
begin with.
God. So what happens is that when something's rare, that's not necessarily where the focus is, because you're trying to tackle problems in general, right? I don't mean just in medicine, but in general, on helping as many people as possible. So I think that it's not necessarily just about ROI, but like, are we maximizing our resources? And I think that's where you find the lack of
Okay.
funding.
Well, before we keep going into that, I want to talk more about you. So how did you get
Oh,
to be?
no.
No, for
Are
sure.
you sure?
How did you get to be the CEO of Live Like Bella? Like, what did you do before?
You know, some people will say, and if you talk to Bella's father, Raymond Rodriguez Torres, who's the chairman of the board, and Shauna, his wife, who's also our coach, our vice chair, sometimes Bella just taps you on the shoulder. Because I didn't have a background in this. My degree, I went to FIU just like you.
Okay, yeah.
I have a degree in public relations from the School of Journalism, and I worked in television my whole career. I worked for MTV, I worked for Sony Pictures. My background was always in international sales and marketing, and I loved it. And I, you know, I think, and you'll find this because you're young, right? I sound like a mom now when I say, tú estás de lo más joven. There came a chapter in my life, and I don't know, I literally almost woke up one morning and I said, I think I want to do more, make an impact.
Right.
And I think that your career, at different chapters of your career, different things motivate you. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's growth, sometimes it's legacy. And I had reached a point that I said, I really want to do something that has impact in our community. And I had, my brother-in-law at the time was battling with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, which is a terrible neurodegenerative disease. And we did a lot of nonprofit work to help them. And I said, you know, man, it might be cool to switch career gears.
To go into
that.
this.
Because I had always done it
Right.
on a volunteer basis. I had volunteered with a Make-A-Wish Foundation of South Florida for 13 years. I had always done things to help in the community, but I had never really thought about making it part
like
of
your
my career.
like what you did on a day-to-day.
I don't know, man. I think the answer to your question is Bella tapped me on the shoulder because I fell in love with this work. And I think one of the most impactful quotes I've ever heard, and it's been attributed to many different people, is justice has not been served until those who have not been affected are as outraged as those who have.
Understood.
And I thank God as a mother, as a parent, I have 2 healthy children. But when somebody asks me, you know, how did you get into this work? First question is like, did you lose a child to cancer? Did you have a sister with cancer or something? And the first time somebody asked me that question when I had started working with it, like Bella, I was sitting at an airport and the guy sitting next to me was just making small talk at the gate. And he said, oh, what do you do? I said, oh, I work for a childhood cancer foundation in Miami. And he said, did you lose a child to cancer? And I said, no. But we left the gate, I got on the plane, I was putting my bag in the overhead bin, and I sat down, I'm like, you know, the next time somebody asks me that question, my answer is going to be yes. I lost a child to cancer, and so did you. All of us have lost a child to cancer. It's a loss for all of us. So just because I didn't, you know, I was not Bella's mother,
doesn't mean that you weren't affected.
Doesn't mean that we were not all affected by the loss of this child, and, you know, who the foundation is named after, and the, you know, the children before and after her to follow.
It's a lot of times the things that you don't see. You know, so for example, I feel like because it's not per se, like we don't feel the personal connection to it, that people just kind of turn a blind eye to it, you know, that's.
Well, we all have some kind of responsibility, right? I think that, you know, some sense of purpose. We're all, I think, you know, to those who much is given, much is expected.
Right.
And I am very grateful to have, you know, many blessings in my life. And I think that we all have, you know, you wake up every day, you have to go to work, do whatever. Everybody has their own routine. But I think at some point in time, you have to say, you know what can we do to serve others? And whatever that may be, in, you know, in the capacity that I'm sitting as CEO in the foundation, obviously my priority is pediatric cancer. But for some people, it's, you know, helping the environment. For some people, it's helping animals. For whatever it is, but finding your passion to serve others, I think we all are called to do that in either talent, in time, or in treasure. You know, we've talked about that before.
Mr. Mrs. 21-year-old looking right now, listen to Nicole, okay?
What am I saying? I sound like a mom, right?
No,
Nadir,
but for
I can't.
real, because
just for the record, I'm not old enough to be Nadir's mom. I want to make sure that we make that clear. No, and I say that, and I've said it time and time again. And please think about this. But it's so important to find a way to give back in talent, in time, or in treasure. Because some people are like, look, I don't have any money. I can't write you a check. Perfect. Do you have time to volunteer? No, look, I don't really have the time, but look, I'm an artist, so that's my talent, and maybe I'll do a drawing, and you can auction it. All of us, in some capacity, we can do something.
Right.
So.
Do you think that your experience before Live Like Bella has helped you, in your position now?
Yeah, I mean, from an operations standpoint, I mean, I've had the opportunity to to work with teams from all over the world. Being bilingual is super important. I think that's a
Right.
good shout
Yeah, I
out
can
in
imagine
Miami
that
to say that,
definitely helps
because
out. Yeah.
especially, you speak Spanish. And
claro que sí.
Sí, claro que sí. I've got 2 kids, right, and only one of them speaks Spanish. The little one only knows how to say like despacito
But do you
and
speak? But do you
croqueta.
speak Spanish at the house though?
I do, but not enough.
See, I think
Not
that's where
enough.
like it happens. Like
Dude,
me,
you
I
can't
probably
lose
wouldn't do
that.
that.
You can't lose that. Because,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So anyway, how did my experience prepare me from before? I mean, I think, my degree, I happen to have had, my background is in public relations, but I did spend some time working for the state of Florida. I was press secretary at the House of Representatives.
Okay.
I was communications director at the Department of State. And so I had a mixed background, having worked in television, in government relations, and then sort of my transition before
Right.
Live Like Bella, I worked for Baptist Health at the foundation. So when I sat down with Raymond, Bella's father, to talk about what was next for Live Like Bella, at this point it was little over 3 years and change. And he said, it's this, this, and this. And, it was a long list of incredible things. I said, you guys have grown so much. What are you going to do? And he's like, we really need to take the time to invest back in ourselves as a foundation in order to continue to grow, because they're volunteers.
Right, exactly.
Live Like Bella.
Volunteers are inconsistent,
Well, but it's not just that, but even our board of directors, nobody on our board gets paid.
Yeah.
Bella's parents don't get paid. In
It's all
fact,
pro
Bella's
bono.
parents make donations to the foundation every month.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
yeah.
like, it's not just about that, but to have a team there put together and say,
Exactly.
you know what, this is a team that's going to be committed to taking this to the next level. Live Like Bella just got to that point, and I had the blessing and
Yeah.
the privilege of being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, that was my next question, actually. Like, how is it, managing a nonprofit, considering the fact that you don't have the funds like for-profit organizations do?
It's funny, right? Because I'm used to working in environments where you're like, okay, we have this idea, let's send it over to marketing, or let's have legal take a look at it, or let's have our IT department help us with this, or maybe our media relations.
Right.
We don't have that, where
Exactly.
it's to use limited resources. I think you have to make sure that you build a team of people that's an inch deep and a mile wide. They can do a little bit of everything, because
Right.
you can very well be sitting at a meeting with the governor, or making sure that we've got coffee filters at the office when we have people
Exactly,
there.
whatever it is, yeah.
I don't. So there's nothing that I would ask my team to do that I wouldn't do myself. And I always, I tell the team, you guys don't report into me, and I don't report into our board of directors. We report into a 7-year-old little girl who's battling, with a rhabdomyosarcoma. That's who you report into, our patients. So
What are some challenges you face as in doing this organization, like being in this position?
I think on a very human level, some of the challenges that we face is it's difficult to talk to these families. We don't have like a department, that like, we don't have a group of
Like a
receptionists
social
that answers.
worker or
No,
anything like
I
that,
mean,
yeah.
we're a little bit of everything. So I think that there's days that the most difficult part of this job for sure is being on the phone with a funeral director and trying to see if you can negotiate the cost of an urn that has a unicorn on it, because a
Because
mom
that's
wants
the
to pay
one
tribute to
moment.
the
Oh my
little
God.
girl who died. Those are powerful conversations that when you come home, you say, man, this isn't a
And you take that
full-time
with you?
job.
I
It's
can
not-
imagine.
Of course you take it with you. I mean, you try to make sure that, the thing is that this isn't a job. This is not a full-time job. It's not a part-time job. It's an all-time job. And what I'm trying on a very personal note, if you're asking me on, on that side, is to find a way to get the people in my life and in my family to embrace that, because you do bring it home. I think there's no way of doing that, to leave that on the door. And I think the day that becomes normal, that you can have a conversation about, a family who has to sleep in the car in the Northeast in the winter because they don't have money to pay their rent, the day you're like, okay, check, then you're not doing the right job anymore. I think it's always going to come home with you.
So in working with the families, what are the resources that Live Like Bella offers or provides for the families?
So if a child has been diagnosed with cancer and the family is going through financial hardships, typically they work with a social worker, a nurse, or a physician, wherever they're being treated. So the family will fill out an application, a very simple application online. They put the name, age, diagnosis, etc., and then they tell us what they're having a hard time with.
Right.
They have fallen behind on a car payment. They can't pay their electric bills. They don't have money to go to the supermarket. And then our office receives it and reviews the paperwork, and then we send back support to the family depending on what they need.
Depending on the aspects of it.
Correct.
But it's not just in Miami, and it
No,
works
it's
in
all
all the
over the
different
world.
states.
It's all over the world.
Okay. And
We've never turned a family away.
That's great. That's awesome. And do you think there's enough state funding for pediatric cancer?
We're very blessed that the state of Florida has made pediatric cancer a priority, and that's our headquarters, right? So we're very grateful to the legislature in Florida for the work that they've done and the commitment they've made. the president last month, for the first time in the history of the United States, talked about childhood cancer in his State of the Union. There was a cancer fighter sitting, in the gallery during the State of the Union, and I think it brought a lot of attention and shed light on a topic that people aren't really super talking about, right? So from a funding standpoint, I mean, the state of Florida has made a commitment to us, and in our government relations department, and with our big lobbying team that we don't have, our commitment as a foundation is to work, not just in the state that we call home, but around the country where we are, California, especially Texas. California and Texas are two of the largest states in terms of volume of patients.
Of just people in general, yeah. Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
No, for sure, you definitely did. Just this year in 2019, what are going to be some of your goals in the legislative session, at least when you go up there?
Well, funny enough, today is the first day of the legislative session in Florida. We get the next 60 days, some action-packed items. We have a couple of bills up this week, incidentally. This week, tomorrow. Talking about a couple different opportunities for funding. One of the ways that we're hoping to raise money is when you go and register your vehicle or to re-register your tag or whatever, you can...
Your car.
I think it's, I don't know if it's
because you have motorcycles or just anything that has a chapa.
A chapa. I don't even know how you say chapa in English. It's a license plate. For a chapa renewal, that when you go to pay the fees, that you'll have an option to check off and have Live Like Bella be one of the recipients if you want to make a donation as a donor. So that's one of the things, that's legislation that needs to be passed. So
because that can only be approved through a vote. Understood.
Through a vote. And then we're also looking for an allocation of funds to help us with family support services in Florida only.
So for your in-services?
Correct, for the in-treatment support. And those monies stay in Florida. When Florida taxpayers make a commitment to
helping. So those funds won't go to help somebody out of state?
Not if they come from the Florida legislature. No, they will not.
So what are the different ways that you raise money for Live Like Bella?
Oh, man. So we have our infamous Bella's Ball. September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. It's September 14th this year.
Save the date, y'all. Save the date, y'all.
Talent, time, or treasure, man. I don't want to hear no because I didn't want to buy a ticket. We'll come volunteer. Something. I will find something for you to do. So we raise money. Bella's Ball is a very large fundraiser for us. Our superhero 5K that was this past month in February, which thank you so much for all of your support there. We had so much fun with you guys, man. You guys were awesome.
Listen, shout out to Chris, shout out to Ann, and Ethel, without a doubt, for always making it happen. It was great. I had a lot of fun. We saw elephants, we saw rhinos, we saw lions. It was really cool. Running through the zoo. I mean, I walked.
Oh, yeah, I definitely didn't do it at all, but
I did not run.
But no, the real superheroes there, man, is the kids, because we had almost 2,000 runners at the 5K.
And everybody was like stretching, running it out. I mean, it was a lot of people. I'll be honest.
And I think the most important people there were the real superheroes, right? Because we have a lot of cancer fighters and survivors that are there. So that was particularly cool. And we had runners all over the world accompanying them, because if you weren't in town, you could register as a virtual walker. And we had a team in California. We had one in North Carolina. One
I saw a bunch of cameras just
North Carolina. We had a virtual run there. So those are two large fundraisers for us in terms of events. The City of Miami, very graciously, City of Miami Police and the Bella wanted to be a police officer, sort of side note here. That was her dream. So the City of Miami Police has always done this incredible bike ride for us, that they've had riders go from Miami to Orlando. I think this year they're going to Key West. So that's another very important thing. And we have corporate partners and sponsors throughout the year.
You had a lot of like actual schools, companies, and a lot of the time, I think I interviewed a guy. He was just like, I'm like an accountant or something, and we just come out because we just love the cause. Yeah, and it was super local, super. Do you think it's hard to build those community relationships?
We've been very blessed, right? So when you say, do I think it's hard? I mean, I think in general, all relationships require cultivation, but we've been blessed. And some of that stuff, I say, sometimes I'll be like, Bella's busy today because this dropped from the sky. And then another thing, is we have a team that really works very hard to establish good corporate partnerships, because just the same way that, we want to make sure that when donors have trusted us to make a donation, that we're using those funds properly, the way that we said we would. So I think that anytime that, from a corporate standpoint, whether you gave us $1 or whether a company gave us $100,000, that they know that those donations and those partnerships are going to the right place, which is ultimately what we're here to do.
What are some of the sponsorships that you have with Live Like Bella?
Oh man, I can't go down that list because I miss somebody, right?
Well, they're gonna be mad at you.
There's so many beautiful people that help us. Some of our corporate partnerships, I mean, gosh, there's been so many, but I'll give you an example of one in particular. Bean Automotive Group, that's home to Lexus of Kendall, Lexus of West Kendall, Kendall Toyota, and West Kendall Toyota. These guys they're the largest single donor to Live Like Bella in the history of the foundation. One entity. And I share them in particular, and I think that they reflect the values of a lot of our donors, if not all of them, that they haven't just cut a check, right? Like, speaking of chapas, at all of those Ford dealerships, all of the license plate frames say Live Like Bella, be Lexus of Kendall and then Live Like Bella. When you go pick up your car for service, they have a hang tag there that talks about their commitment to the foundation.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't just like a marketing campaign. It was like, you know what, let's talk about the mission. Let's talk about the why. And I like to talk about
Right, talk to us about the why.
Talk about the why. No, we can have a podcast. I'll talk for hours about this because I really love the work that we're doing. But it's very easy for us to talk about what we do and how we do it, right? You've asked me, what does Live Like Bella do? How do you guys raise money? But I'd be remiss if I didn't make sure that we start these conversations with why do we do it? Because a lot of people can do the very same thing and not remember why they're there. And we talk about it. Ethel, who is our dear friend in common and who's on my team, she calls it to the little board, right? Like, there's the board of directors and there's the little board. And by little board, we have a conference room at the office. Some offices were donated to us in the middle of Coral Gables, which is huge because we don't pay any rent, we don't do anything. And there's
that's honestly awesome because then you have a place to meet, you have a place to gather.
Oh yeah, it was
and that's like the first stop, yeah.
Yeah. So when we look around the conference room, there's 6 seats there, and I'm like, guys, when we go to work, picture that seat right here next to you. There's a 6-year-old there who's counting on your support, and that's who you report into. That's your why. We're not here because we have to do something a certain way, and we have to remember why we're here, and it's these children that we are really committed to serving in the best way possible.
Do you think it's easier? Not easier, but do you think that adult cancer research gets more funding than pediatric?
Yeah,
it's more common, or
yeah, I think they do definitely get more funding. Pediatric cancer research in the United States receives about 4% of the National Cancer Institute budget on cancer, which is you'll look at a lot of social media and you hear a lot of people hashtag more than 4. I think that proportionately speaking, the number of years of life lost on a child compared to the number of years lost on an adult, I know what you're saying, that the fact that like if a 5-year-old gets cancer and passes away, if the lifespan of that child would have been 80 years old, you're talking about. There's also a statistic that kids that get cancer and then survive are going to be more prone to getting any other disease after the fact, before they're 45 or something. Well, some of the research I think is very important, not just on treating the cancer now, but what are indeed the after effects. Children who. That's why you look at, for example, proton radiation. The Live Like Bella proton radiation program at the Miami Cancer Institute. Miami Cancer Institute is part of the Baptist Health system here in South Florida, and it's an alliance with Memorial Sloan Kettering. And the pediatric proton radiation program there, we had the privilege to fund. And proton radiation, right, for those of you who don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's really scientific.
I know it's really scientific. Yeah. I won't nerd out on you because I don't know enough nerd stuff. But
okay.
It's a proton radiation where the radiation goes very specifically to the spot that
where it's located
versus having any side effects of the radiation going to places that is not necessary.
Right, because then the radiation is going to affect negatively. Understood.
Exactly. So we have, we are privileged to be on the front lines with that kind of technology. Exactly. Dr. Matthew Hall, who runs that program down here in South Florida, together with Nicholas Children's Hospital, we work very, very closely with them to make sure that children have access to this kind of treatment. And that we can make sure that they are receiving the very best that technology has to offer right now.
So what I'm getting is that there's a lot of collaboration between, obviously, Live Like Bella, the organization, the actual research, and then you reaching out to the families that you're helping out with the in-service.
Absolutely.
And then the community donors or just anybody who's involved.
Yep. So it takes a village, man. It takes a village. Yeah. There's a lot of collaboration, and there's another great quote that it's amazing what one can accomplish if nobody cares who gets the credit. And if we can all sort of play in the sandbox together, right? Because there's a lot of different people working on the same thing. If it doesn't matter if it was Live Like Bella, if it was Memorial Sloan Kettering, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're completely hospital agnostic and university agnostic. We'll work with anybody. I mean, anybody who's doing the best of the best and who wants to come together and make sure that we're serving the same population, collaboration is key.
So the funding that you do get, what aspects go to it? Like what percentage it goes to research, what goes to the in-services, or what's you know what I mean? Like what?
It changes, it varies year on year. I mean, from a research standpoint, the state of Florida created the Live Like Bella initiative, which that funds in perpetuity $3 million a year to conduct child cancer research in Florida.
And that's for universities, any research
Anybody
centers?
who's conducting research in the state of Florida can apply for the grant.
Okay.
It's administered through the Department of Health. And we have a seat at the big kids table, is what I like to call it, to see what's going on. To see what's going on. And so on the research side in Florida specifically, there's that. I mean, the funds that we allocate for research vary year on year depending on the kind of proposals that we get for people who are doing research. Right. So we'll have organizations that'll come to us and say, hey, Live Like Bella, we have this idea, we want to conduct this study, it's going to cost X amount of money. And then we sit down and say, okay, is this a scientifically meritorious project? We have a scientific advisory board that reviews it. But it varies year on year. I mean, the in-treatment support specifically has skyrocketed in the last 3 years. I mean, if you look at like just paperwork, right? The folders that we originally had were, like one manila envelope, but now it's like 5 binders, right? So most of the funds that we're raising directly right now are going to in-treatment support and to memorial support. And then on the research side, we're working more right now with state entities to make sure that we can fund research on that side as well.
So then the funds that you raise through through the ball, or through I guess more like active means, those are the ones that go for the in-services.
Yeah, the in-treatment support. Those are the ones that are.
So it's like the bulk of what you use.
In-treatment and then memorial support, that if a child passes away, we're able to pay tribute to their
So you
life.
do a more direct impact, like right away, with those funds.
We sure do.
Okay.
I call it like farm to table, como está de moda,
Yeah, I know
farm to table.
going to one of those
markets. It comes in and it goes right
Straight
out. We're not
to
meant to be a bank account there with the money sitting there. The money needs to go to the families.
That's great. Are there any metrics that you can use for money, like the progress that money makes? Obviously, like what you said now in the farm to table, where it's kind of, it goes from one place directly to the person. But
Correct.
I mean, for research, like, can you say X amount of dollars will produce X amount of progress? Or is that not?
I mean, it's so hard, right? Because even research spent that doesn't work is money well spent, in the sense that just somebody may think like, okay, we're going to donate money and we're going to find a cure and we're going to have like, sometimes it works out that way, and sometimes you fund research that nothing happened, and that in and of itself was research. Make sense?
Yeah.
So like outcomes depend on what your goal is. So if your goal is to see what doesn't work or what does work, the metrics will vary by study.
Right. And what do you think is more valuable to put money towards research, or in the actual assistance of?
Oh man, I think that there's no real answer to that. I think it's just a matter of both matter. I think it depends on who you ask. From where we're sitting, that we provide services on all of those sides. The research is as important as it is for a child to have access to medicine right now. If you have a child that you have the best treatment here, but the family can't afford a co-payment and they can't, on the medicine that's here now, what's more important? I mean, I don't know if there's a right answer to that, but I think they're equally important. Let's call it.
Okay. And what ways do nonprofits raise money for research centers? Like, I know you have the ball. What other ways have you raised funds?
One of our newest initiatives, one of the ways to live like Bella is to eat s'mores. Bella loved to eat s'mores. She liked to take bubble baths and sing and pray. And we launched something late last year that we sort of have poured the concrete and now are working on building. It's called the S'more Society. It's a program where you can live s'more, love s'more, and give s'more.
Okay.
And it's a
Is
program.
It like for some more?
It's to raise some more money.
Right? I like that. Yeah.
The idea is something that we all do every day, which is, what do you do every day in the morning? Drink un cafecito?
100%.
Actually, today's 3:05, and somebody
Today is 3:05 day.
3:05,
What?
right? It's 3:05 day. It's like espumita day.
Yeah.
So for the cost of a cup of coffee, right, which a colada is about $2.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to a good colada, it's $2. You can get it for $1.
Listen, you can't even go to Starbucks. The cheapest cup of coffee at Starbucks is like, I don't know.
$4.
See, $4. See,
you could just get a regular drip, and I mean.
and it's still, I think it's like $2.19. Starbucks is
It is
awesome.
$2.19,
It's not like an ad, but the point is, the idea was to create a program where you donate $2 a day to the foundation, something that's manageable for many people.
Right.
And so you donate $60 a month to the foundation, and it's funds that come directly in to the foundation and go right back to children who are battling cancer. And as a thank you, the foundation has partnered with a lot of local businesses, both here and online, that you get benefits. So for example, I'm Nadir, I donate $60 a month to the Live Like Bella Foundation, and every time I go to Our Betters in Westchester, I show my S'more Society ID and I get a discount. Every time I go...
You're making it back.
You're making it back.
You're making it back.
It's like, give one, get one. The idea is for us to be able to say thank you to our donors without having to spend money, so that you know that when you give the money, it goes directly to the foundation. We create collaboration in the community, which goes back to what you were asking us before. So the program is awesome. Check it out, s'moresociety.org, or when you go to livelikebella.org, you can click S'more Society, and it has all the information.
So how do you go about getting sponsors?
I mean, we have Monica Diaz, who's our Director of Community Partnerships, who's awesome. I mean, she works directly with a lot of our corporate partners in the community. Really all of us. I mean, all of us on the team have leveraged opportunities, and we have a great board of directors who has a lot of great contacts, who they turn to their friends and their colleagues in the industry and say, hey, we all have to come together. So I think our team, our board of directors, and word of mouth.
So if you're a sponsor, okay, make sure you get at Nicole. We need to put you on the S'more Society, guys.
The S'more Society is awesome. It's awesome.
All right. So apart from that, are there any other benefits about joining the S'more Society?
I mean, look, I think your real benefit there comes from knowing that you've made an impact.
For sure.
Right? There's a whole bunch of different places, and I think the idea was for it to be fun. A lot of times you have a rewards program. I'm sure you've donated before, and you'll like to somewhere that they send you those address return labels.
Yeah, like a
in the mail or a T-shirt.
Something.
But those things cost money, right? Like even if I want to send you a cool T-shirt, I'm happy to, but that T-shirt's going to cost me X amount of money, and you have to deduct it. You want to give me those $60 a month, and
just to go straight to that.
Right. But it allows me to say thank you, because saying thank you is one of the most important things that can come out of our mouth every day is gratitude and thanks. We can have partnerships to say thank you to you, and you say, you know what, not only am I helping kids with cancer, but every time I go to Lincoln Beard Brewing, and I get a discount on my beer if you're over 21.
Yeah, no, for sure, for that
if you're over
ID.
21, just disclaimer. You're helping make a difference in the life of a child battling cancer.
So where do you see the organization in 10 years or in the near future? Where do you see in what direction it's going?
I always say I'm in the business of losing my job.
Okay.
Right? Because I hope every cancer center gets turned into an IMAX movie theater, right? Because it's all shut down. Like, cancer being cured, we don't need any more.
Right.
I
know what you're saying.
So my vision, right, is to not need to be here, right? If you want to talk about that, but I want to be able to ensure that we can continue to serve every family that comes to us. We've never turned a family away in our almost 6-year history. So fundraising continues to be a priority and always will be. Both on the grant, state, national side, and on the private donation side. And in terms of program services, I'm really excited. All of us are very excited about taking an opportunity to create support for siblings of children who are battling cancer. Reina's Bella's little sister. She's starting high school. She's going to Lourdes in the fall.
Okay.
Lourdes girls are awesome. So that's a hashtag that I invented.
That's definitely a hashtag.
It's a hashtag that I invented, sorry.
Yeah.
So Reina, who's 14 years old now, has shared so much about her story of being the younger sister of a child battling cancer. And I'd love to launch an initiative named after her and call it the Love Like Reina initiative that provides sibling support to families. So if we talk about growth, I think opportunity to continue to serve patients anywhere they are in the world, to continue to raise funds, and to launch different initiatives to serve the pediatric cancer community, not just the child, but the siblings, the parents, et cetera, et cetera.
There's a lot of other things that people don't see, right? Like everybody just sees the patient and what it is, but not like the support system behind it.
Well, it's hard, right? And I think that unintentionally, sometimes siblings have to take a back seat for a minute while their sister or brother's being treated because they're requiring more attention. And kids, especially who are young, might not understand that.
Especially when you're young like that.
Right, when you're young. So I think that our hope is to provide support to siblings as well.
Okay. Are there any last words, any shout outs
Thank you,
that you
man.
want to give out?
Thank you. I say it all the time. If there's nothing that we say every day, I think we all have a responsibility to say thank you because we're all blessed in some capacity. And like I told you before, to those who much is given, much is expected.
Right.
So my shout out is to you to say thank you to your viewers, to your supporters. Thanks for taking the time.
Make sure you guys
to listen.
Go on the website. They have jewelry, right? Can we talk about that before?
Oh, yeah,
you gotta give all the things
stuff.
that we have.
If you go to livelikebella.org, you can read more about the research. You can go shopping, which I like to do. Don't tell my husband. There's Live Like Bella jewelry. There's Live Like Bella socks, which is a whole super cool campaign.
Yeah.
But there's all kinds of fun stuff. So check out the website, livelikebella.org. S'more Society is on there, but you can also go directly to s'moresociety.org. And that's it, and call us, right? I'm always super accessible.
If you want to volunteer,
Yes.
DM them, follow them.
Volunteer.
Like,
Oh,
Ethel will
Ethel.
respond right away and be like, yeah, come
She's-
on, let's do it.
Yeah, and talent, time, or treasure, man. Whichever one of those things you want to do, and just reach out. You can, you have my cell phone. I'll share. Whatever you need to do, reach out to us, and we're here.
For sure. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you,
on
my
with
friend.
us.
Thank
Alrighty,
you, guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Take care.
Hey, you just sat through the whole podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe and comment what your favorite part was. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Ven Vamos. If you're listening to this on the audio version, give us a 5-star rating. Thank you and have a great day.